It's another fishing podcast, episode 56, and boy, oh boy, do we have a podcast for you today. Went fishing, it's been a while, but I went fishing for smallmouth bass on the Mississippi River, and it was like fishing in a frigid wind tunnel, but I caught some fish, so we'll be talking about that a little bit. Finally went ice fishing with my great old friend Pete Wagner for lake sturgeon, ice fishing for lake sturgeon on the St. Croix River. It was a blast making a video out of the smallmouth piece and that piece. We're going to be talking about that. Also, questions and answers on how to catch midsummer walleyes and crappies. We're going to get into a cool article that goes in depth on that. It's official. Humminbird's Mega Live 2 is legit. Wait till you see this video. I think you're going to be impressed. I certainly was. Have you heard of the Flutter Nymph? Yeah, I hadn't either, but this Flutter Nymph, oh my goodness, when you see the underwater of it, you're going to be like, I need several packs of those. So we're talking about all that stuff and so much more. Let's go.
This isn't another fishing podcast. This is another fishing podcast.
All right, so yeah, I got to do a little fishing last week, which was fantastic. And first off, went fishing for smallmouth bass, which this time of year, if I'm not able to, well, it's basically this is what I do. So obviously, all the lakes around me, I'm in Minnesota, they are completely frozen. So I'm really fortunate in the fact that I have the Mississippi River near me. Well, more importantly, I have a warm water discharge nuclear power plant near me that allows me to fish open water in the depths of winter. And so it's always a great option to have if I don't want to ice fish. You know, ice fishing can be tough, and it's always nice just to have some variety in life, right? So, but here's the key. To be able to go to the Mississippi River and fish open water, and I'm doing it out of my kayak too, so wind is a variable that I have to consider. So what has to happen is I need a day above freezing, so 34 or warmer, and then little wind. If those criteria get met, I head over to the Mississippi River and I go smallmouth fishing. Where those qualifications, criteria were met, well, I should say they were met for a part of the day, and then the rest of the day it was forecasted to get really. I said the last podcast I wasn't going to say really, so okay. I'm not going to say it again. The first part of the day was forecast to be calm, and then towards the end of the day, forecasted to be windy. Well, my stupid ass didn't get out until later. And it was like some of the craziest, especially in a kayak, right? So I had to bring two 12-pound anchors along, river anchors. And when I got there, so this part of the river that I fish, it gets a lot of wading pressure. There's a lot of wade fishermen out there, and a lot of them are using live bait. For me, it's very difficult for me to use live bait for bass fishing, okay? I've been indoctrinated that bass, you use only artificials for bass. Anything else is just, it's not acceptable. It's not civilized. You're not a true pro fisherman if you use live bait. And so I'm kind of kidding on that, but not. I definitely have been brainwashed to it is impossible for me to be okay with using live bait for smallmouth fishing, largemouth bass fishing. I can't do it. So I'm looking all around here. I'm hearing animals. I have one dog that's been like whining. And so my dog Scratch, he's like a little, he's like a terrier chihuahua mix. And he's right here next to me because upstairs he was whining. And I'm just like, I cannot handle this whining. You got to come down here with me while we do this podcast. So if you hear dogs whining or my other dog, which is a little miniature dachshund. I kind of feel like I hear him. He's probably wondering what's going on. So I'm hearing things. Hopefully we can finish this podcast today without any crazy pet antics interrupting things. But back to what was I talking about? The Mississippi River. So the Mississippi River, I can't bring myself to I can't bring myself to use live bait. I can't do it. So this time of year, the fishing's really good. So the temperature never really goes under 40 degrees there because of the warm water discharge. The nuclear power plant's discharging. I think when it comes out of the plant, when it comes out of the holding ponds, they got to cool the water a little bit. But when it comes out of those ponds, those cooling ponds, that water is like 70 degrees. So you can fish way downstream from that power plant, way downstream, and the river stays open and it stays quite warm for many miles downstream. When I say warm, everything's relative, but above 40 degrees. So 40 degrees and above. So to me, that's just a great option in the wintertime if I'm getting sick of ice fishing or ice fishing's really slow around me. I just look at the forecast and I say, okay, yeah, it's go time. Things are good. But this particular day wasn't so good. So competing with all those wade fishermen out there, and I thought it might be just a good idea to like downsize. I'm using artificial, so something, downsized, obviously really slow. This time of year, all I do is drag whatever I'm throwing. I just drag it right on the bottom. It's just dragging. It's no pops. If it's a pop, it's like a gentle pop. I'm not doing any hard pops. It's just mostly just dragging on the bottom. Using 6-pound fluorocarbon. I just got to kind of go finessey, slow. And you can have great days out there this time of year. You're just looking for just slack water, some depth. You get 4 or 5 feet of water at least. That's primo. They can even be shallower sometimes. But the biggest thing is that you need to find slack water. So let me just show you what I decided to rig up for this particular trip. And it is a Great Lakes Finesse snack craw. That's a 2.1-inch green pumpkin on a Stealth 1/8 ounce Great Lakes Finesse ball head. And I've never thrown that bait before. Those pinchers are fantastic because they float up. It's just a tiny, tiny little bait, but those pinchers float up. That plastic is super dense, super dense. I only used one bait the whole time I was out there. That's how well that bait holds up. Super dense plastic, but just everything's matte finish in these Great Lakes Finesse baits. Super finesse. I'm really a fan after this day of smallmouth fishing I had. So this is what it produced and more. There was more of these. So this is a smallmouth I caught. Really, really long fish. There I said really, really again. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to try to stop saying it. I'm giving myself a complex here. Yeah, that's a smallmouth, I would say pushing 20, if not 20, because he's very long. Wasn't a real heavy fish. You could tell he's an athlete. He's slender, athletic river fish, but that's coming up. I'm actually going to be editing that tomorrow and getting this up at the end of the week. So you can watch that video. But it was a good day. But I tell you, it was unbelievably windy out there. So I got out there way too early. It was nice and calm when I got there. Like around, I guess it was around 11 I got out there. And then, I'm setting up my kayak and whatnot. And there's other wade fishermen. I'm talking to some wade fishermen that are out there as I'm setting up, my kayak, and they're talking about how good the fishing is. And I'm like, oh, I got to hurry up and do this. I get super stressed out because to set up this kayak and to set up all the cameras, it takes a lot of time. And when you're hearing that the fish are biting, it can be a little stressful. So Finally got everything set up, and once I get out on the water, the wind picked up, and I'm telling you, it was gusting to, I swear it was gusting 35, sustained 25. My kayak, the bows just, flying back and forth. I couldn't use my trolling motor except just to get me to spots. I couldn't hold with my trolling motor. I have a trans-mounted trolling motor. The bow is just flying back and forth. And so I had to anchor on every spot, which just, it limits your mobility, and it's just a lot more of a hassle, but it worked. And it was a successful day, even though it was very, very challenging, to say the least. It was extremely challenging. It was one of the most. So what was happening is it was a front. So we had nice warm weather, obviously. Warm, it's all relative, right? So we had weather that was in the, above freezing. So that's why I was out there. But what was coming was very, very cold temperatures. It was a massive cold air mass, if you will, that was descending down, and it was going to bring it was going to bring very, very frigid temperatures. And so it was that transition phase between the warmer air mass and the colder air mass. They were fighting, essentially, and I was right there for the battle royale. It was like just to have wind smashing you in your face all day is just incredibly tiring. I know all you guys know what I'm talking about. I know exactly, I know that you know what this is. If you spend any length of time, if you're so eaten up with fishing, you're going to go out when you probably shouldn't go out. And those days when it's just like blowing and just nonstop, they're just absolutely exhausting days. And this was one of them. It was just intense. So I was thankful, though. I was using just a little 1/8 ounce, a little 1/8 ounce jig head. I couldn't find anything heavier, unfortunately. So all I had was those 1/8 ounce Great Lakes stealth ball heads that I was rigging that snack craw on. And it was very hard to feel the bottom. I wish I had something heavier, but still with that, we managed and was able to put some better fish in the kayak. So check it out. Going to be editing that tomorrow. Look for that coming up this week, end of this week. So that was a fun time until the wind really started wearing me out. Also was able to get out, let's see here. Let's turn the page here. Was also able to get out on the St. Croix River ice fishing with my old pal, another fishing show co-host, also another fishing podcast co-host. We need to get him back on this podcast soon. He said he would like to get back on. And he's just, this has been kind of I'm not going to get into it, but it's been a bit difficult few weeks for my man, Pete. And one thing about life is that you never know what life is going to deal you. And it's just important he's fine. I want to make this clear. Pete is fine. But it's just something that, it's just been tough. I'll just put it that way. You have people you care about in your life, and some things just, life can get kind of dark sometimes. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But hopefully we can get Pete back on this podcast, and because fishing is good. Fishing is good for you. And I was really talking about that fishing, life being tough and kind of can get kind of depressing sometimes. I know we all can go through those it's just part of life, right? So Pete's in kind of one of those little bit, I just want to emphasize, it's not it's people that you care about, when they have a tough time, people that you really care about are having a tough time, and then that can obviously affect your life. So just because of that going on and difficulties and, ups and downs of life, it just felt really good to be fishing with my man, Pete. I've known Pete forever. I care deeply for the dude. We basically got each other into fishing. It wasn't our parents or grandparents or anything like that, although they played a role, and it was an important role. But Pete and I really, we were the ones to get each other into fishing because of our love of like the outdoors and nature and animals and just plants, just all of it. We learned one summer that we could catch animals in the water. And it just blew up everything. It was the ability that we could catch these animals in the water, different fish. It just opened up a whole new world. And then the fact that it was a sport, so it was the thrill of the fight, everything. It just was like, this is what I'm going to be doing. My life is going to be centered around this the rest of my life. It was that profound and powerful for me. So Pete and I, we came up from that. We were a product of that. We are, it's felt weird not to be fishing with Pete as much as I have in the past. And then also doing these podcasts, I just want to, get back into that swing of things where we're fishing on a regular basis, and then we're talking about fishing on a regular basis with this podcast. I know I'm going on kind of a tangent here and going off, but these last few weeks, it kind of helps you to appreciate life more and your friends more and experiences with people you care about more. So it was, with that being said, Pete and I, we were able to get out on the St. Croix River and do some lake sturgeon fishing through the ice. And I got to tell you, if you are around this area, I live in central Minnesota, not far from the Twin Cities. If you're around this area, you really need to try to experience this lake sturgeon fishery on the St. Croix, because it has become quite a fishery. Not only are there numbers of lake sturgeon in the St. Croix River, but there's some some big ones. And when you go out there and fish, you can, you catch all different size of lake sturgeon. So there's great, there's the spawn is successful, I would say, like just the numbers, it's really a story of conservation success. A ton of efforts through the DNR in both Wisconsin and Minnesota have just really brought that fishery back. It used to be that fish, the lake sturgeon and the St. Croix, I believe, were nearly extinct, if I'm not correct. If they weren't, they were endangered for sure. But they are just on fire now. And so you can catch them through the ice. You can catch them in open water. There's a season, but it's one of the most unique ice fishing experiences you can do. And if you want to get a guide for out there, I thoroughly recommend Darren Troseth. He's always helped me and Pete with questions that we have when we go out there, not only for ice fishing, but also for open water. You need to check out his YouTube channel, 3 Rivers Fishing Adventures. Check out his YouTube channel. And then also 3 Rivers fishingadventures.com, I believe it is his guiding business. But he guides out there both for ice fishing and for open water, does a fantastic job. If you want to do it, you should do it. Search Darren out. It's not complicated fishing, which is beautiful about it. It's essentially bottom fishing for similar to catfish. The rigs are a little different, but it's very similar. And it's, probably the most difficult thing that you need to do or to be able to, or, that you need to have to be able to do it, is that you need a really stout, for ice fishing for these guys, you need a really stout ice rod, kind of like a lake trout, something used for lake trout would work. but also maybe a little more stout. You don't need necessarily the sensitivity that you would, or that tip that you would for maybe a lake trout rod, because there's a lot of jigging that's going on. So it's more of just a stout rod. It's almost like a cue stick. And the company, the problem is the companies, the guys that are making those, they're kind of few and far between now. But I heard, I stopped in before we went on the latest excursion. I stopped in this bait shop called Walleyes. It's like in Stillwater as you're going down to Bayport. That's Bayport, Minnesota, is where we actually went out of, basically, on this trip. But there's this Walleye Willie's in Stillwater that kind of specializes in, the fishing in that area, sturgeon in particular, catfish. But there's rods that he was selling that are specifically for ice fishing for sturgeon, but they're all sold out. But I was told that this company called Mud Puppy is where it's at. So I'm going to have to... The problem is that they're supposedly sold out on his website too, but Mud Puppy, like search Mud Puppy sturgeon rods, and I think you'll find it. But that's kind of the hardest thing right now. Like, luckily, Pete had 3 sturgeon rods, so I was able, you can have 2 apiece, but so we only had 3. We could add 4, but it was still fine. It can kind of get chaotic with a lot of rods, but these Mud Puppy rods are where it's at. I was told they're not that expensive, and I was told, like, the best rods for sturgeon fishing through the ice. So keep that in mind if you want to do that. 50-pound braid, main line, and then it's just kind of there's a video that's coming out. We're going to make a video of this last sturgeon excursion. So we go more into depth on it, but because the rig is kind of interesting. It's sort of like a slip sinker rig with beads, treble hooks, and you just gob a bunch of night crawlers and fathead minnows on there. That's the bait that you use this time of year. So I think that might be the bait you use all year. Although shad are a prime bait, but that requires, I think to be able to do that, you need a permit to net them, and I'm not all quite sure on the seasons for that. So, but that being said, so we went on a lake sturgeon excursion, and showing this picture right now. If you're only listening and you're not watching this, I'm bringing up a picture of us just south, downstream of Bayport, and that is Pete's shack, his clam hub shelter, great big hub shelter. It's awesome. Does a great job. Plenty of room in there. Heated up. It's like having a cabin out there. And so you drill. It's kind of crazy. You drill 2 holes connected. Okay, and then you gotta make sure that there's enough room in there. But you drill 2 holes. We have 8-inch augers, so we drilled 8-inch holes, connected them, and then that's like 1 hole for 1 rod, and then the other rod we do the same thing, and then we have another hole that's just for the fish finder to see these fish coming in. And what's wild about it is that there was constantly fish activity below us. Constantly. It was just constant fish activity. And so it's interesting. So in this picture, you can see us, we're parked around the hub shelter, and in the distance there, you see some other shacks, and they're not all going for sturgeon. It's important to realize that. Not everybody is out there fishing for sturgeon. And for the most part, you don't really need to get around people. It's a basin. It's not like these sturgeon are necessarily relating to any kind of contour lines or anything like that. They're just in the basin of the St. Croix River. We're fishing in about 30 to 32 feet of water, and there was this constant fish down there. I don't think that they were all sturgeon, but I kind of suspect that most of them were. There's just such a great population of fish in this river now. So it's I just feel so fortunate. It's only like an hour and 15 minutes for me. So really fortunate to have such a unique fishery. And this is what we were able to, well, I would say Pete was successful on this trip. I'm not going to say too much more, but this is one of the sturgeon, one of the sturgeon, I don't know. We'll say sturgeon that he caught. And look at that fish. It's an incredible fish. Amazing. I love these things. They're prehistoric. They have hardly changed in millions of years. And to be able to catch these things is just such a gift. I really feel that way. So we had a good time. Pete is the sturgeon slayer. Let's just put it that way. And by the way, we released all of them. You got to release them. I don't know what the regulations are. I release, both Pete and I, we release everything anyway. So, but yeah, I'm pretty sure this is just strictly all catch and release. And like I said, that's all we do anyway. So make sure if you go out there, you know what the regulations are. All right. So yeah, that was, check that out. Gonna have that not this Friday, but the next Friday. We'll put that up. This Friday is going to be that smallmouth piece of freezing in a wind tunnel. And so look for that. Really fun time. And we caught sturgeon. So, and you never know, like you can go out there and it's like fishing, right? The thing that's different about it is that there's so much that's involved with setting up and just like, getting the pop-up shelter up and then the heater and then the holes. The holes in itself, it's not easy to connect those holes, so that in itself takes a lot of work. And so you really kind of just want to, once you decide that that's the spot, you really want to make sure that that's the spot, then you go, we're staying here. This is the spot then. You're not going to be moving. You're just going to be like, okay, this is it, because it's way too much work to move to another spot. With all of it, you can be mobile. I'm not saying you can't be mobile. If you wanted to, you can make this a mobile endeavor. But if you're fishing with a buddy and it's just with a hub style shelter like that, you kind of just got to drill your holes and go, this is where we're setting up. And I've heard from Darren that you can catch them in the daytime too. Doesn't necessarily have to be a nighttime thing. So don't get set in your head that this is just a nighttime thing for sturgeon. I think people, according to Darren knows better than I do, that you can catch them all throughout the day. So it's just, if you're near the St. Croix River, you should do it. All right, so let's see here. Let's see if I'm forgetting. Yeah, we actually did a live stream. It was really funny about that, before I forget. With that live stream, so I think we were on there for nearly 2 hours. Didn't get a sturgeon on the live stream, but what happened was we get off the live stream and we're like, okay, well, we're gonna fish a little bit longer, but we start just packing up to go. And I'm in my car, putting some stuff away, and I hear Pete screaming that he's got a fish on. So it's just, that's how it works, right? You're either ending a live stream and the fish, you get a fish, or you're packing your stuff to get ready to go, and that's when the fish decides to bite. So you never know when these suckers are going to come around and take your offering. So it was another one of those deals where it's just like fish surprise you, and that's what's so darn fun about fishing. That's why we do it, right? It's the surprises. I got to take a sip of a wonderful watered a beverage. See, I'm like a kid. I can't just drink water. It's got to be flavored water. So I put this Mio in it. Everything needs to taste like Kool-Aid to me, I guess. I don't know what it is, but I guess I know what it is. I'm immature. That's what it is. Okay, here we go. Thank you. Okay, so I am actually leaving. So I am, let's see, Saturday, I am headed to the first Bass Pro Tour event in, where is it? It's actually Lake Conroe in Conroe, Texas. And it's, I know I've probably been there before. I've been a freelance camera guy for so long, and I've done so many of these tournaments that they all kind of start blending into one another. I'm like, I get lakes confused with other lakes, and I'm sure I've been on Lake Conroe before. I'm sure I've been here, but I don't really remember it that well. But I am going there on Saturday to film the first stage of the Bass Pro Tour, first stage of 2025. And this is going to be really interesting because this is, they have now the restrictions on the forward-facing sonar. You can only do it one period. So the anglers decide, I believe they decide before the event, what period, before the start of the fishing day rather, what period that they're going to use the forward-facing sonar. Can we just call it live sonar? I mean, forward-facing sonar. Can we just start calling it live sonar now? I mean, all sonar is live, I guess. And forward-facing sonar isn't necessarily always forward-facing. So we got to come up with a better name. We can't, I mean, I prefer live sonar better than forward-facing sonar. Anyway, so it's going to be super interesting. There's this contraption which they are using to lock their fish finders, their transducer cables for their forward-facing sonar, for their live sonar, so that it impedes them, it restricts them from using forward-facing sonar in any other period. So they do it so there's no kind of hijinks happening where guys could be using their forward-facing sonar and the boat officials aren't noticing it. They actually have a box that locks them out by actually locking the live sonar cables in this box, so they can't get connected to the unit, is my understanding. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. I think it is, of all the tours, I think the Major League Fishing solution to the forward-facing sonar, I'm just going to keep saying it, I guess, the forward-facing sonar issue, I think their solution is the best solution out there. I don't think that forward-facing sonar should be banned. I think forward-facing sonar is amazing technology. I think it can tell you, we can learn a lot about fish from it. A lot of myths can be dispelled, but I believe, especially for competition, it needs to be restricted. We can't have everybody just throwing little dainty plastics and looking down at their screens all the time. And I've said it before, it's a sport killer. It's what makes fishing so wonderful is all the different variety of lures and different techniques. It's what I loved about this sport. You can catch fish on top water. You can develop top water patterns. You can't have everybody just fishing the middle of the water column out in no man's land and just looking down, just transfixed to screens. It's just not good. We're not in a place. I think a lot of us, I've followed this sport since I was a teenager. I think a lot of us are surprised that we're actually backsliding, okay, the sport. So we need to be doing things that when someone, let's say, I don't know, that promote the sport in the best ways possible. And I just don't believe that you're going to get more people into the sport by just limiting techniques down to just jig head minnows stuff like that. And just everybody, you're out in nature. The thing about fishing is that you're out in the elements. And to be so just, I think it takes away from the sport if you're just so, connected to technology. It's one thing if you're trolling, let's say just on the opposite end here, like walleye fishing, right? You're trolling and you're looking at your graphs to see where the fish are in the water column or, stuff like that. But, to me, when you're just constantly scanning, and so much of it is like you're scanning, there's nothing, and then you see one fish, and that's the fish, and you go, and I'm not saying that there isn't skill to that. There is skill to that. But for everybody, for the vast majority of everybody doing that, and everybody's doing it because it works really, really well. But what that then creates is that everybody's now doing that. And so now if you're watching it on TV or if you're reading an article, all the articles are about forward-facing sonar. All you see on TV is people looking down on their screen just scanning the water column for one single fish or two single fish. It's happening walleye fishing too, I see it. We're hurting ourselves here. I really believe it. So Major League Fishing's solution, not to ban it. I don't believe in banning it, but you got to limit it. It's such a powerful tool. You limit it. So not only you still got those guys, it's a cool technique. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for going out and scanning and finding fish and catching them that way. But it's got to be limited because it's going to be all, I would say this. There's a great threat of that just being what everybody, that just becomes it's already that way, what everybody's doing. And I've heard that it's hurting hard bait sales, so it's not necessarily good for the industry. That's why you look at like a Rapala. Look at Rapala. Rapala's getting into soft plastics. You think they got into soft plastics because they were like, yeah, we're Rapala, we've been in hard baits forever, and we just want to get into the soft plastics now because why not? We're the hard bait company, and Rapala is like synonymous with amazing, hard baits. And yeah, now we're going to be getting into soft bait. I believe, and I could be wrong, but I have a strong suspicion is that they saw the writing on the wall and that they needed to get into this forward-facing sonar game. I'm going to really try to break myself. Live sonar game. Got to come up with a better name. Really, honestly. What could it be? Yeah, so I think that Rapala is like, well, okay, well, no, we gotta figure this out quick. And they had great guys on their team. And they started. Wheeler, hello. So they started producing incredible soft plastics. It was a great call that they did that. And I've used some of their stuff, their soft plastics, and they're awesome. So I don't begrudge them whatsoever. I think it was a smart move, but I've also heard companies like Lucky Craft are super hurting right now. I shouldn't say super hurting. I don't want to just. I hate hyperbole. I want to, and I hate. I don't want to exaggerate. Okay, everybody exaggerates. I don't want to exaggerate. I want to try to be as truthful as possible here, but I have heard that hardbait sales have slumped. And that companies like Lucky Craft, I don't know about Rapala, but I suspect it's true with Rapala as well. But companies like Lucky Craft are hurting. Should I say hurting? Their sales have slumped because of what's going on with live sonar and the jig head minnow phenomenon. So anyway, it's going to be interesting to be at this Bass Pro Tour event, the first stage of the Bass Pro Tour at Lake Conroe, and see how that all works. I'll report back on it and let you know. Take some pictures. I think what Major League Fishing is doing is the right route. I think they really have a they got a leg up on people, on the other organizations, because they can, they break out the day in 3 periods, and they have boat officials that are actually there. The boat officials are there to police. Let's just be honest. So it's perfect for this. I think it's gonna suit Major League Fishing really well, doing it this way, restricting live sonar this way. All right, so gonna move on to what I found in the world of fishing on the interweb. And it's there's some really cool stuff going on, I must admit. And I just want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything here. Yeah, so, okay, so I've talked about this in the past. Oh, before I forget, look at this. One of my favorite things being a fisherman, and I've been this way since I was a teenager, probably since I was 12. So not even a teenager, before I was a teenager, was getting a Bass Pro Shops Master catalog in the mail. And I just got this yesterday. Bass Pro Shops 2025 Fishing Master Catalog. I mean, this thing is thick. My goodness. I mean, part of it's because Johnny Morris owns so many more bass boat, or just fishing boat brands, not just bass boats, but he's got all of these. Look at all the boats he now has. I mean, there's saltwater boats, so that takes up more pages for sure. But it's also kind of their acquisition or merger with Cabela's that, these are bigger. But I've said this too. Back in the day when Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's were 2 separate entities, Cabela's, like the photography of Cabela's as compared to like a Bass Pro Shops catalog, like Bass Pro Shops was so far ahead of the photography in Cabela's that when I first started, like, out of college, that was my first job out of college. I got a job in the video production department of Bass Pro Shops. And right next to us was the photography department. And I would go over there once in a while. I'd see him taking pictures of lures. It was really cool. See, I stopped myself for saying really, really there. I'm gonna get better. So I'd stop into the department, the photography department, and talk with those guys and see what they're doing. And I would tell them when I'd go in there, I'd say, you guys do such a phenomenal job of your photography that I remember when I was a kid just looking through a Bass Pro Shops catalog and how great those lures looked. It just further kind of bolstered, buttressed my love of fishing. And I just, to this day, they do great. Their photography is fantastic. And it makes me just want to buy lures more than I already do. So it's great business for Bass Pro Shops to have a photography department that is that good at making their products, look awesome in a catalog to buy. So I know it's a different kind of world, now. I mean, I wonder how many people are actually ordering from catalogs anymore. But that thing's thick. And I know I'm Generation X, man. I'm getting up there. I'm approaching 50. But this right here, when I get this in the mail, I get this special feeling. I get very excited. I'm excited to look through this and just see what all is new in 2025. When I was a kid, it was so exciting to see there'd be like a new starburst kind of graphic by a lure, that I'd never seen before, to say new, and I'd be like, what is that? What is this lure? And I love Bass Pro Shops. I'm proud that I worked there. I started my career there. I learned a ton there. And yeah, I just want to share that with you, that I got a Bass Pro Shops master catalog in the mail and how important that is to me. So that's why, I've kind of been indoctrinated into the Bass Pro Shops kind of world because that's where I started my career. I've got a tracker fishing boat, out there. I have a tracker pontoon. I know actually it's sounding that I'm wealthy, but I want to say that that picture that I was showing you of the aerial shot of of us fishing on the St. Croix River, on the frozen St. Croix River. Well, that car on the right is a Hyundai Elantra. That's my car, okay? So I put all my money in boats. Everything else I'm not so concerned about. So anyway, let's get into the fishing news of the week here. And boy, this is going to get exciting. I have said many times, how much I think that if you're going to be a pro, you're going to tour, you're going to be on tour. First of all, it's very expensive. And so you're going to want to keep your costs down, as far as lodging and whatnot. You want to keep your costs down with that, just in general, everything, because it's so expensive. But the best way, in my opinion, to go, if you're going to be a touring pro, is to have a truck camper. Okay, so you have like I would say at least you're going to want to have a 3/4 ton. I mean, I guess you could do it with a 1/2 ton, but I think a 3/4 ton truck is better. So you're pulling your boat, you got your 3/4 ton, and on top of your 3/4 ton, you have a truck camper. And they're making truck campers now that are so awesome. I'm going to give you an example right here. Here's Brett Height. He's on the Bass Pro Tour. Check this out. This is his rig for 2025, and I believe Brett lives in Arizona. So this is him actually heading out for the Lake Conroe event, and look at that rig. Specifically, look at that truck camper. So that is a Lance truck camper, and that his truck is it's at least a 3/4 ton, maybe a ton, and because these truck campers now are getting very, very heavy because they're look at right over his truck, you've got, the part of the camper that extends over the truck, over the cab of the truck. That is like the sleeping area, and it's big. So it's a good big sleeping area. The living area is that part is over the truck bed. And I mean, big windows, there's an awning, you get to the site and you can, you drop the boat off, let's say you get to a campsite, drop the boat off, then you basically, I'm not exactly how it works as far as how to get the camper off of the bed, but that, I think it's pretty, I don't know. I'm pretty sure they're dropping, like Brett is going to be dropping that camper down. So it's got like hydraulics, I'm pretty sure, like legs that then you just set that camper down, drive the truck off, and the camper and the truck are then independent. And then you would hook the truck to, back to the boat, and then super easy. It's easier, easy to back the boat down a ramp, and it's just, then you got your home, at the campsite, and then, you got the truck camper, your home at the campsite, and then you can just drive around like normal with, the truck and the boat. It's also possible, I suppose, that you can you can keep it attached, you can just keep the whole thing attached while you're backing down the boat. I think it wouldn't be that difficult either to do that. So if you didn't even want to disconnect, the camper from the truck, you could do that too. And still, I don't think it would be that difficult to back a boat down that way. But it's a better option. I've talked to anglers that have gone different option or a different route, but they came back to the truck camper route. One particular example is Todd Faircloth. He is a Bass Pro Tour angler, and I've talked to him about it. He now has a truck camper, but for a while, like earlier in his career, he had the big truck. He had like a 3/4 ton, maybe a ton truck, and he was pulling a fifth wheel behind it, a big fifth wheel, and then a bass boat behind that. And he said it was great because once you got to the spot, you essentially had your home there. You had you had a big almost, I mean, obviously depends on how your big your home is, but you got a lot more room with that big fifth wheel, okay? But the issue with that is he told me, he's like, it was just so stressful driving that around, that, you know, that big rig with the truck and then the fifth wheel and then the boat behind it, that it just became too much. It wasn't worth it. It was so stressful driving that around, especially when he got to like more metro areas, that he just was like, I gotta go the truck camper route. So that's really, if you're gonna be a professional fisherman, that is the route to go, in my humble opinion. I've seen it, you know, I've seen a lot of guys doing it. I'm like, that is the way to go. So I'd seen that on Bass Blaster, and that is from Brett Height's Fishing, Brett Height Fishing, his Instagram there. So I just thought I want to talk about that, because I love those rigs. I'd love to have, I have an old truck, okay? I have a 95 Chevy Silverado pickup truck. And I've actually had when I used to fish tournaments, I had a truck tent for a while. And I fished some tournaments. You use that truck tent to camp out fishing some tournaments. And that was awesome. I enjoyed doing it. But I've really liked that option. You know, trucks are they're so useful. I'm so useful. They're the most they just make so much sense. Trucks do. We use my truck all the time for everything, for towing, for throwing stuff in the back, you know, moving stuff, for throwing yard debris in there. They're such a useful vehicle for, you know, especially obviously for fishing. The fact that you can put a camper in the bed is just the way to go if you're going to be a touring pro, in my opinion. So I want to share that with you. Thanks, Bass Blaster, the Bass Blaster newsletter, Jay Kumar. Check that out. Sign up to that newsletter. I get a ton of information from those guys. Also, Target Walleye, we'll be talking about that here shortly. Great newsletters. Sign up to them. So, all right, here we go. What are we talking about now? Now, speaking of Target Walleye, so I have not, well, I've actually caught some crappies this winter so far, but I need to become a better ice fisherman, okay? I am a good, well-rounded bass fisherman. I probably, of all of the species to go after, I am most versed in bass fishing, but I really want to become, I am a multi-species guy, right? I just love catching everything, and I want to become a more well-rounded multi-species angler. That's really kind of what I want to do with the rest of my life. I just want to, and the other thing too, I've been fortunate in my career to be able to have gone to a lot of cool places, okay, to film fishing. And so I'm not necessarily, at this stage of my life, I don't necessarily want to travel so much anymore. Not to say that I don't want to travel, but I don't want to travel at the level that I've traveled in the past because of my job. I've been fortunate to say that I can check off that box to have been to amazing places and filmed and experienced, you know, and been able to fish a lot of times in those places. So for me, what I like to do is what are the opportunities near me? Okay. What are the stories I can tell, the fishing stories, if you will, that I can tell near me here? And being in Minnesota, there are a ton. And so I'm not so, don't get me wrong. I want to catch big fish and you know, I'm all about catching big fish and that, you know, but I kind of want to, more than anything, what are the options near me? How good of fishing can I find near me? And that's kind of like what I kind of want to do with this channel. Sort of more of an everyman kind of, you know, channel, like stuff that people can relate to more. But at the same time, be educational. Like what, you know, here's the reality. Lake Winnipeg has got, and I'm not saying you can go to Lake Winnipeg and the fishing can be tough. I've actually experienced that before, okay? That can happen anywhere. But the reality is on those fisheries, the chances of good fishing are greater just on those legendary fisheries like that. But not everybody has those opportunities. So I like the idea of, okay, what are the opportunities near me? What are the best opportunities near me? And how can we take advantage of those opportunities? Meaning, how do I learn about what the fish are doing in those lakes, how to catch them? And I think a lot of anglers would benefit from that. So that's that's what I want to do with this channel, is what opportunities are more local, and how can you best take advantage of those opportunities? So with that being said, Target Walleye, this is an article that came out recently. Do you call it an article necessarily? So Target Walleye is an email newsletter. And I guess, yeah, we get to call it an article. But this is from Target Walleye. And it's basically about catching crappies and what do you do? How do you catch crappies and walleyes midwinter? Like, how are you, doing that? What are the best ways to catch them? And so I really kind of perked up when I saw that Brett McComas, he's the guy that's doing Target Walleye. I perked up when he covered this, because for me, where I'm at, there's a lot of fishing pressure, okay? And what frustrates me probably more than anything is that walleye fishing is kind of, in Minnesota and just many parts, it's in the north, it's a put and take fishery. Like, walleye are such a food fish to so many people that it's like the minute they catch them, they're out of the system. There isn't especially in lakes. Okay, I'm not going to. Well, I might get into. Let me just continue on here. So especially in lakes, it's like, it's a put and take fishery. They're stocked, and then people catch them, and they're taken right out. Stocked, stocked, taken out. Stocked, taken out. Stocked. It's very, very frustrating to me that is the mentality in this state, because they're so, like, it's such, walleyes are so thought of as a food fish. And so, boy, it'd be nice if there were just like someone, some lakes, they are like designated, just like, this is just a trophy designated walleye lake catch and release. They do it on stretches of the Mississippi River. I don't know why they haven't done that with lakes. We've got a lot of lakes in this state. It'd be nice if they did that for walleyes. Like, just make some of these walleye lakes just catch and release only. We got enough of the put and take fisheries everywhere, the stocked fisheries, and like, they're everywhere, so people can go and catch their food if they want to. Why? They do it for bass, okay, in this state, in Minnesota. There are lakes where it's protected. They're trying to get bigger bass in these lakes. Why are we not doing something more like that with fisheries in Minnesota? Like, more like, let's like take a lake and really, that's got the qualities, doesn't have to be a big lake, but it's got the qualities of, like, this should be a good walleye lake. Let's make it into a catch and release only situation. And I know I'm probably dreaming. In Minnesota, this is probably going to be impossible. But anyway, my point in this is that around me, there is more pressure. I'm closer to the Twin Cities, so there's more pressure on crappies and on walleyes. And so, but I guess I'm kind of going off on a tangent that I don't really need to go off on. But my point is, that's what I'm doing. That's kind of like more of the fishing that I'm doing around me in the winter time. And there's pressure. So much of what I do is I just go and I see, I see a bunch of like houses out on a frozen lake, and I'm like, oh, that's where I should be fishing. Well, I don't really want to like do that, because I know everybody's going to be pounding them right there, and there's going to be a lot of pressure there. And like I said, there's so many of them. This is just a put and take fishery. And I'm like, well, how long are these walleyes going to even be here before they're all fished out? So that's kind of the stuff that runs through my head in the wintertime. I know I'm digressing right now. That can happen also with crappies. Same thing. In Minnesota, especially in the winter, everybody can get out on the ice, and it's just like, Like it's who can catch the most fish and eat them all. That's kind of how I feel. I don't like it. We need more catch and release. That's my thoughts on the matter. But with that being said, here we go. Here's this midwinter walleye crappie Q&A. Now this is, let me just say this. So this, I try to get I've tried to glean as much information I can from like Target Walleye, Bass Blaster, just to like techniques that are happening, good information on what, just what I should be doing, especially like ice fishing this time of year, because I'm not a novice, I'd say, but I'd like to be a much better walleye fisherman. So I commend Target Walleye for putting this kind of information out that is, I believe, can make you and I better ice fishermen. So here we go. Midwinter Q&A. How in the world do you catch walleye and crappie this time of the year in midwinter? So this is from Target Walleye in their newsletter. During the open water season, it's easier to notice how bites, locations, and conditions change as the season progresses from spring to summer to fall. Ice fishing sort of just feels like one big season that's all the same, cold. But if you want to consistently stay on fish in the winter, you need to switch up what, where, how you're doing things as the ice season progresses too. Andrew and Gina Hiddle are a couple of folks who have been steady tracking them down all season long in central Minnesota. So our friend Joel Vanderkroll reached out to pick their brains in hopes of it helping you to get on a more consistent midwinter bite on your own local waters. So yeah, this is like good information from people that also deal with pressure, and that's why I wanted to share this on this podcast today, because I think this is going to be helpful. I'm kind of selfish here. I was like, I need to learn this. So I felt like if I need to learn this, maybe you guys need to learn this. So here we go. So these are some of the specimens that they've caught. It is Gina and Andrew, if that's correct. Yeah, so nice walleyes, crappies, and let me just make sure that I have their names right here. It is, yes, Andrew and Gina. So, all right, so what depth ranges and types of structure should anglers focus on during mid-season for crappies and walleyes? Walleyes. We tend to fish about 20 to 30 feet in the deeper basins next to weed lines or deeper rocks. Walleyes will come in shallower at night to feed. Crappies we are looking for in deeper basins suspended about 20 to 45 feet. Oh, goodness gracious, I'm sorry, I'm kind of burpy today. If you're trying to catch walleyes during the day, the dirtier the water, the better. It's getting harder to find dirty water nowadays, so most of your bites will be early or late. We find the fish tend to bite better with stable weather conditions. So that's good to know. How do your techniques for locating and catching fish evolve during mid-season compared to early ice? Mid-season walleye and crappies tend to go back where you find them late fall, deeper structure, rocks, saddles, and hard sand spots. We mark a lot of our spots during the boating season and go back to those same spots in the winter using the One Boat Network app to mark these spots. All right. So let's see here. I want to make sure I got... So you can see here on this map, I'll try to, I got to realize that too, that there's people listening. This isn't, I know we're doing a video podcast, but we're doing an audio podcast. So I kind of just need to describe, if you guys are listening, I appreciate you listening, what I'm describing here. So here's a map that I've brought up, and it shows the areas that they're talking about here. So you can see this underwater point, and on the left is the zoomed out version. On the right is the zoomed in version of that point. And you can see cabbage. There's some cabbage on the shallower section, shallower part of that point. Some coontail, scattered rocks, deep boulders. And that is breaking into, looks to be about 24, that initially then into 27, 26, and then it just falls off into 45 feet of water. So that's they're basically saying like in lower light conditions, those fish are going to be in shallower water. In bright sun, they're going to be off deeper. So you can see like there's suspended crappies, and looks to be 25 feet. There's some suspended crappies in 38 feet. A walleye up in looks to be about 25 feet. So just deeper structure breaking off into the basin there is what appears to be going on. So look for those kind of areas. What signs or changes in the environment, examples, bait fish movement, oxygen levels, should anglers pay attention to during mid-season? If there isn't any snow on the ice, the sun can shine through, and oxygen level in the weeds should remain high, keeping the bait fish in the weeds. Find the bait, find the fish. When fish are aggressive, don't be afraid to run big baits. Big bait equals big fish. When cold fronts move through, the fish always seem more finicky, so we downsize. We will size down to 32nd ounce crappie spoons and upsize the treble hooks. If you're using 32nd ounce crappie spoons is what I said, I think. If you're fishing dirty water, you want darker presentations, black, gold, golden perch. If the water is clear, you want more of a natural presentation, chromes and blues. When we are trying to call fish in, we like to use bigger rattle baits, knowing a lot of the time the fish will bite either the dead stick or a smaller spoon. Glow jigs are always a good option for night jigging. All right, yeah, so which baits or lure presentations are most effective for mid-season? And do you have any tips for fine-tuning their use? Make sure you run a mixture of big and small baits, anything from big sucker minnows to a crappie minnow on a dead stick. See how the fish react and adjust from there. We normally are jigging with number 5 jigging wraps and spoons to see what they're hungry for. And here's proof in the pudding right here. Nice walleye that Gina caught. Nice work. A lot of time we call them in by jigging, and they will eat the dead stick with a plain hook. So that's just it's a minnow. It's like a fathead minnow with, rigged with just a plain octopus hook or something like that, I imagine. Don't be afraid to use big hooks on the dead stick. Most of the time people run too small hooks on the dead sticks, and they don't get a good hook set. What are a few overlooked tactics or strategies that can help anglers stand out and find success during the mid-season? Downsizing and upsizing is huge. Watching the fish react to your bait and seeing what's working and what isn't. Keep changing baits until you find what works. Also, stay away from the crowd. Might be surprised what you can find on less pressured lakes that people don't fish. It's scary because you never know. I've thought about this. Ice fishing, it's easy. I think when you first start ice fishing this season, when you see those permanents go up on a spot, I kind of feel that it's not a bad idea to get out there and see what's going on in those areas. But as the season goes on, I feel like those places then are just absolutely hammered. So, you probably want to move away from those spots. But then I also wonder, these smaller bodies of water that you don't see much going on, maybe you don't see anything going on, what could be happening on those bodies of water? I think sometimes those bodies of water could have winter kills, so it's like, don't even touch that stuff. But it's always in the back of my mind, and this is the fun of fishing, right? It's like, could they be in there, and could it be just amazing? So I think you should go explore. You should try stuff, that you have to test. But it's one of those things where it just could really, really suck. And I think you just have to, you have to test sometimes. And that's the fun of fishing. It's just the exploring, the pursuit of it. So I'm all for testing out, places that there's nobody. But you gotta also realize that it comes with a price potentially. Anyway, so let's see. Donna, keep changing. So also stay away from the crowd. Might be surprised what you can find on less pressured lakes that people don't fish. Use the DNR surveys for references and the OnX Fish app to help determine fish populations to be more successful. That is great. It's a great tip. Again, though, some of these smaller bodies of water may fish, they could have fish kills. So some of that information from like the Onyx Fish app or like the DNR surveys or whatever could be old information and not up to date. Gina and Andrew say, we don't hardly ever fish next to anyone. There's so much water that is untouched. There's no reason to fish in big groups of people. Those are the hardest fish to catch. Every fish caught is memorable, is a memorable experience to us. That's a great philosophy. 100%. Every fish is memorable, especially the ones that you kind of catch yourself away from the crowds. So yeah, it's good to hear that. These guys obviously know what they're talking about. So it kind of helps me have confidence to not get so close to people when I don't know what the hell I'm doing. All right, and yeah, here's some more examples. Catching nice crappies there. Gina and Andrew. I'd like to go fishing with these guys. Okay, where were we here? What water clarity? I guess they live in central Minnesota. Hit me up, guys, if somehow you're listening to this. Yeah. Where was I here? What water clarity conditions have been the most productive for you? We typically try to fish dirty water because it is easier to fish throughout the entire day. Clear water, you'll get your flash bites at sunrise and sunset. Good to know. You think too, though, that happens and where it's going to be harder to find like clearer bodies of water in the winter. So many bodies of water clear up because you don't, like so many lakes around me have algae blooms in the summer, and so the water clarity is not great, but it makes for great fishing. And those fisheries also are just like, because it's got those algae blooms, it's like there's a lot of runoff from farms. It's like miracle grow going into these bodies of water that just kind of, they supercharge the whole ecosystem, the whole food chain. So they can be really amazing fisheries, but what happens is in the cold, the algae bloom goes away and that water really clears up. So finding clear, or dirty water is going to be harder. I don't even know necessarily around me where I could find a lake that has kind of dirtier water. I don't know. I have some ideas. Let's put it that way. Okay. Anyway. All right, where were we here? Yeah, another Gina there with another nice walleye. Nicely done there. Are you exploring new fishing spots or returning to proven locations? We fish a lot of the same spots every year. We almost have a routine of where and when we go to catch them every year. We do try new spots when we can. Never know what you're going to find. I love it. That's what's so much fun about fishing. Have you noticed specific times of day that are particularly productive this season? Most of the bites will be at sunrise or at sunset, but a lot of our bigger fish come between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. on dead sticks. 4 a.m. Holy smokes. These guys, they hit it hard. I like it. All right, here's some more examples of, gee whiz, those are nice walleyes. Nice crappie. And what looks to be a beautiful brown lab right there. Yeah, so I think that's that is the article. Just wanted to share that with you. I'm always looking for information to make myself a better angler, and God knows I need a lot of help, especially in the winter with ice fishing. And I just thought that was a great article to kind of help with, especially this time, that we are in the depths, the doldrums of winter. So good information there on how to make yourself a better walleye and crappie fisherman this time of year. All right. Thank you, Brett McComas, for that. And we will move on here. Okay. So I'm a Humminbird guy. I love Humminbird. I ran Humminbird since my first boat, I was 17. I had a Humminbird on there, just this little like dot pixel Humminbird graph thing. That was what? Goodness gracious. That was in 97. 1997, I think that was. 90, around there. Maybe 95. 95, actually, I think it was. Oh, my Lord. Anyway, I'm dating myself. But I like Humminbird. I really kind of became a fan of Humminbird. Kind of just decided that I'm just going the Humminbird route. When they came, they were really kind of first to, I don't know. Let's say they did the side imaging, the down imaging better than anybody at first. So that's what kind of sold me on Humminbird. They really were at the forefront there. But now with forward-facing sonar, there I go again, with live sonar, they have been kind of not doing so great. Let's just put it that way. So Garmin is at the top, and then I would say Lowrance, quite a bit a ways from Garmin, but better than Humminbird. And Humminbird's been real, they've been down here, okay? Garmin's killing it. Lowrance, pretty good. And then Humminbird's live sonar, quite a ways down, okay? So they've been really slacking. Well, that is not the case anymore with the new Humminbird Explorer units and this live, they're calling it Mega Live 2 sonar, live sonar. And just to give you an example, okay, this is a guy, this is from Target Walleye, Doug Wegner's fishing. Doug Wegner fishing his Instagram. And check this out. This is a lake trout. Okay. He's up north ice fishing for lake trout. I think he's in Canada maybe. Could be in northern Minnesota. Not sure. He's way up there. And he's jigging for lake trout. You'll see this bait ball. And then you'll see a lake trout on the left coming into the bait ball, chasing the bait ball away, and then slamming this guy's lure. And it is so clear. And this is like, I've been waiting, like Humminbird has finally got their act together. They got this Explorer unit now that looks amazing. It's simplified. It's kind of taking the place of the Humminbird, helixes. The Humminbird helixes are like no more a thing. It's now these Explorer units with this Mega Live 2 capability, I should say. The old helixes can't support. I think there's going to be a lot of people mad about that. Like the helixes, they can't support the this Mega Live 2, this improved live sonar. So you have to get one of these new Explorer units. But with all that being said, just look how good this is now. Mega Live 2. It is legit. Check this out.
It's like one lurking down there in the left corner. Look how tight that ball gets when that fish shows up. It's gonna bust right through it. Oh, look at that. God! Oh, yes! I think it's a good one. Yes!
I mean, okay, so let's just, I just want to let that play out, okay? Is that not amazing? So look at that bait ball. Look at how perfect that is. That lone lake trout's now going to the lure. Boom, hits it.
God, oh, yes. I think it's a good one. Yes.
That technology just blows me away. Look at that bait ball right there. And so that fish is underneath the bait ball. You can see it, okay? Now it's chasing the bait ball away. The bait ball goes out of the cone. The lure's right there, and the lake trout is now a caught fish. Unbelievable.
It's a good one.
So Mega Live 2 is obviously it's legit for ice fishing. He's pointing that. So this is why you can't call it forward-facing sonar, because it's looking straight down. So we're going to call it live sonar, Mega Live 2, and it's just it's such a great picture. You see the bottom is it's sloping up. The bait ball is completely visible. I mean, you can almost see individual you can see individual bait within that bait ball. And then that lake trout goes right to it. Boom! That is so amazing. I can't get over it. So, Humminbird, You did it. You did it. You're in the game now. I can't wait. I got my boat sitting out, okay, without, I've so got to upgrade my fish finders, okay, on my boat. I've got this boat that I'm trying so desperately to pay off as quickly as I can, because honestly, I don't want my truck to hear this, but I need a new truck, okay? And I gotta get fish finders on that boat. It's almost like without a good fish finder on my boat, it's like a giant paperweight. Okay, so these Explorer units, I gotta figure out as quickly as possible this year how to afford at least one of those Explorer units and get this live sonar on my boat, because wow. Nice work, Humminbird. All right, so moving on here. Okay, so now this is, I can't, let's see here. I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything on that last, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah. So check this out. I can't believe that I have not known about this particular lure. It actually kind of freaks me out that this is something that's gone under the radar. It's gone way under my radar. I think there's probably a few people that know about this bait. I know there's a few people know about this bait because I found this out on Bass Blaster. So at least Jay Kumar knows about this bait. But this lure is... Oh, well, anyway, let me just talk about this here a little bit first. So Jay Kumar has Bass Blaster, has his Bass Blaster newsletter, and where I learned about this lure was from this newsletter where he was going into the most like finesse-y lures. Okay, what are these awesome finesse lures that you should know about? So he's listing these finesse lures, like, and he's thinking kind of on the bass side of things, right? And what you should be using this time of year. I mean, it's January, it's cold, and parts in this, places with open water, guys are still bass fishing. You got to really slow down. What are the lures to use that are going to catch you fish this time of year? These finesse type presentations. So this bait made by FishLab called the Flutter Nymph made his list. And I want to show you this because I'm just floored by this. Wait till you see this. And you'll have to get through some kind of metal-y music here. And I like metal, but this is a bit over the top. But let's just get into it. Okay, so love the metal music. Look at this bait. Look at this thing. Now, what's triggering me right now is how these little wings on its back are fluttering like
FishLab 2.5 little flutter nymph,
like a dragonfly nymph or something.
Bill Siementel from FishLab Tackle. We're going to talk to you today a little bit about the 2.5 flutter nymph. This thing is wicked, guys. So we're out here on a weekend, a Sunday. It is packed of people. A lot of them are just moving out of the marina right now. But our goal is today to see on a tough day if we can catch a largemouth, smallmouth, maybe a striper, trout. We're gonna see how many fish we can catch on a flutter nymph. Multiple techniques, slow rolling it, the pendulum, under a bobber, dart head, drop shot. This thing's friggin' magical, man. The power of this bait, it has so many different illusions. It's an emergent, like a stonefly, mayfly, anything emerging.
Little windy.
Dragonfly. If you reel it, slow roll it, or pendulum, it looks like a little bait fish. Man, this thing is seriously a wicked, wicked tool. to fish. Wintertime fishing, history has shown a lot of tournaments are only won with 9 to 12 pounds on an average for years in wintertime, in December, January. And when they pull the water like they've done, it's got to be down at least 8 foot, maybe a little bit more, 6 to 8. Water's getting cold, northwest winds. It's in the upper 30s, low 40s. Fishing can get brutal tough. And this is where I've learned for years, you know, that's why I've worked so hard on understanding the float and fly and bait fish and how bait fish react in cold, super cold water and depths. So when we came out with the nature series for FishLab, we wanted to get ultra realism baits, plastics, the cover bird, you know, the flippin' frog, the crawdad, the flutter nymph. We're going to take stuff to a really realistic level with all the right features to trigger fish to bite. Now, the beauty of what we're doing is we came out last year with the 4 1/4 and 3 1/2 flutter nymph, but we've been holding back, and people have asked for a 2 1/2 inch flutter nymph. And I tell you what, this is, I really don't want to talk about it, to tell you the truth. I don't want to show people how wicked and how productive this bait is for all species. Big fish, small fish, crappie, panfish, trout, bass, stripers, in multiple techniques. I mean, you want to go crappie fishing, man, just do a pendulum by some trees and they're going to smoke this thing. Do the same thing for bass, for trout. If they're on little teeny no-see-em bait fish, you can put them out on you know, just a little dart head like this. Just swim it and just hold on. Make sure your drag's set right, loose, light line, and you're talking about some of the best and most fun finesse fishing you're going to get year-round with this bait. That's the crazy thing about it. It's just so good. It checks so many boxes of finesse, and it crosses so many lines for the realism part of it. You know, you turn it upside down and you slow roll it across the bottom and it look like a little sculpin or a shrimp. You swim it through the water column, it looks like the little baby no-see-em fish, the bait fish that we're always trying to mimic. And man, you'll see fish boil and guys will throw top waters and swim bait. They'll throw everything in the kitchen sink, trying to figure out how to get those finicky fish that are keying in on bait fish like this big. And if you ever look at the flutter nymph, especially the 2.5, the wings are the exact size of the no-see-em baits. So it looks like a little pod of bait fish. This is just mind-boggling, bad to the bone stuff we're coming out with FishLab. So guys, make sure you check out fishlabtackle.com. We're gonna have more videos. We got more baits for 2024. Holy, you know what? 2024 is gonna turn some really real heads.
Yeah, this is an older bait.
Oh, look at the size of this little beast.
I mean, not that old, but...
Oh, yes.
Little Wendy.
Look at that. 2.5 FishLab Flutter Nymph. I pegged him good. Look at that.
Yeah, that is a good one. All right, yeah. So that is Bill Siementel. That's his. I've got to make sure that is his YouTube, the Big Bass Zone. So the BBZ, the Big Bass Zone, the BBZ, all one word, all lowercase, on YouTube. Okay, That's where I got that. And Bill is known out west as like a big bass aficionado. He's done a lot of like swim bait designs. And this, he's doing, I think he's doing maybe all the designs for FishLab. And that bait, I'm telling you, I had no idea that that bait looked like that in the water. That is a very unique action that I don't think I've seen in, from a soft plastic lure. Just rigging on a jig head. It looks like some kind of like a dragonfly nymph, but those wings on the back of it, I guess it's like 4 wings and they're fluttering. And then you have the abdomen that, is the tail of it. That thin tail has an action, and can shake. You can use it on like a drop shot. It's just, there's a ton of applications for it I can see. And immediately from what I'm thinking, that is going to be a great river smallmouth bait, especially this time of year, that smaller, like 2.5 inch, version. I was using that snack craw recently, that 2.1 inch snack craw, on the Mississippi River catching smallmouth. So that's a really good size for this time of year. So I'm excited to use it for that. I love fishing Berkeley baits. I'm a big power bait fan, so I'm always a little bit hesitant. I mean, I so believe in the power of scent that I'm always a little bit hesitant to use a bait that doesn't have that in it. But in that particular example, I've just, or this particular example with this bait that I think looks so good that I'm just like, okay, I will use like a power bait scent or like a gulp gel and use it on there, because the action of that bait, it overrides, the fact that it doesn't have power bait on it. It just looks like a phenomenal lure. And I think that 2.5 inch is going to be really good this time of year. And I think you can go up in size as the year progresses. We get into like, into the summer months. It's going to be a great creature bait for pitching. So I am very excited about that lure. The other thing, though, is that 2.5 inch version is going to be that's going to be a killer through the ice for crappies, for like walleyes. I could see it working. That is going to be a great ice fishing bait. So I really wanted to show that to you. I want to show you one more time. Just another video here. This is from FishLab Tackle's YouTube. And this is more of it underwater. And this, it just looks fantastic. Oops, wrong video. Stand by. Here we go. I mean, come on. You don't think that looks phenomenal? More of the middle of the water column. You can use it as a swim bait. You can use it on a drop shot. Look at that thing fall. Yeah, I am sold. Look at that thing down there. Yeah, sign me up right now for the FishLab Tackle Flutter Nymph. I'm going to say that right now you could take that 2.5 inch version and kick their tails on the Mississippi River behind warm water discharges anywhere you have open water this time of the year. I think you could catch the heck out of them with that bait. And then for ice fishing, I need to get some, because I think it could be particularly really a good, crappie bait, but I could see applications. Heck, man, it'll catch walleyes too, I'm sure. So check it out. Buy some of those. I'm going to be buying some of the FishLab Tackle Flutter Nymphs. All right, so we're going to wrap up here. We are looking at, we're we're over, looks like an hour and a half. So we are going to wrap up. But first, just want to say we're probably going to go live on Wednesday on the St. Croix River. It's probably going to be around like after 5. I would say if we can go sooner, we'll go sooner. But I will let you know. I'm going to try to let you know on our socials whether we're going live and then at what times. But right now, playing it on Wednesday, Lake Sturgeon on the St. Croix River. And then Friday, January 31st at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, you will see the blustery bass adventure that I had on the Mississippi River. Caught them though, man. So I caught them, and it was terrible conditions, but I caught them. Thank you. And it's going to be a fun video. So check it out. That's going to be this Friday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Watch for that. I saw this in Bass Blaster, and I just thought this was, I don't know. I thought this was very cute. It's a dad joke, okay? It's a dad joke, but it made me chuckle, so I wanted to share it with you. And here you go. Here's my dad joke. Do you see the minnow fin? Yes, acetaminophen. I mean, it's super. Like, why am I? Okay, it's super stupid is what I'm trying to say, but I think it's funny, so I want to share that with you. Do you see the minnow fin? Yes, acetaminophen. Okay, all right. So we're moving on, moving up. We're getting out of town. We got to go. But first, just before we go, I want to say that if you want to find us, how do you find us? You want to go to YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Instagram, and search Angling Uploaded. If you're watching this video, you already know where we're at. You found one of those places. If you're listening to the podcast, basically, so I say this every time, but just so for clarification, Angling Uploaded is the umbrella, everything underneath that, another fishing podcast, all the stuff that we do is under the Angling Uploaded umbrella. So, but to find us on the socials, just type in Angling Uploaded, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Instagram. And then for another fishing podcast, if you want to just listen to another fishing podcast, which I totally recommend, just go to any and all podcasting apps and you will find us there. Just search another fishing podcast. So with that, I'm going to leave you. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. We're gonna go fishing this week, baby. I hope you're doing the same thing.